off, this is not a bias. It's just a this is just a apparel experiment to see if there is any causation depending on if casters wear apparel and do they win. All right, guys, this is not bias, just purely an apparel experiment.
All right. I'll buy it for now. We're back into the picks and bans here for Game 3 between Cloud9, Amateur, and Mirage. Winner goes on to the finals, and already we're seeing some pretty familiar bans as the Darius getting taken off the table, as well as the Zillion, as we've seen quite a bit. And now, our good friend Smax made the claim that Dareth will not be blinded this game, quote, if these teams actually have coaches. So we'll see if they ban it, and we'll see if it ends up coming through early on. I don't think it's likely to happen either.
Yeah.
But I could see it happening. It's just kind of like a very confident pick.
I think it'll only be picked if Mirage show their mid lane hand very early on. I think that's the plan. But for Cloud9, they're gonna be looking to pick up the Graves for themselves, knowing that Emotion has played it twice so far. So a smart little change when it comes to the draft, but a pretty fast Kindred being locked in for them.
Yeah, I mean, Kindred is pretty good into Graves. You are able to auto attack from slightly outside of his range, and it gets better and better as the game continues to go on. We'll see how they end up playing it, because it is just the one pick, and we saw a Lulu paired with it earlier, and that was rather effective, being played by Robbie Bob. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to actually get them the win, but it doesn't mean that it's not a powerful combination of champions to pick anyway.
Yeah, we'll see if the Lulu gets picked up, if it gets flexed out like around in game 1. Instead, looks like they're going to be picking the top laner for Dragoon and that Ornn. I think it proved okay, but as we saw in the second game, Braum early on did stop a lot of what Mirage wants to do. So if Cloud9 wants to take that out, they can definitely go for it again for tempos.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty solid at this point, but there are still a lot of very powerful supports that need to get pushed around pretty heavily by Lulu. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but I also don't think it's like their only option. They have a lot of routes that they can still take this draft, and the Kai'Sa continuing to be the #1 prioritized AD carry throughout this tournament, which is a little bit surprising to me, but still going to be having a lot of tools. You can go forward, you can go backward with the Killer Instinct, and now we have to see what else they want to pick up, because these are two relatively safe positions to grab, but there are a couple more things that you have to decide. At some point. It looks like they're going to be grabbing the Galio for themselves.
Now, this is an early mid lane pick for Captain Shrimps here, and it's a little bit different from everything else he's played. He's played Control Mage 1 and Artillery Mage 2, and now he's playing something that's pretty much like an engaged tool for the Cloud9 squad. I'm wondering what DNA has in store for him. If we saw what happened in Cloud9's first set in Game 3, there was a Vayne that was picked for Wixie, and if DNA want to flex a little bit, they could look to pick the Vayne up for the mid lane if they wanted to.
I'm surprised Azarella didn't flex here. I'm surprised you haven't brought up the fact that Kai'Sa Galio is a pretty classic bottom lane, too.
It is.
You can just throw that down there, and you have a lot of options to play with. The Braum pickup here is a little bit surprising to me, but you already have the engage, and you do want to take it away. But I feel like there are other really strong supports, right? You still have the Leona Alistar, as we perennially talked about, and the Braum can still be banned here. You don't necessarily have to pick it, but it is, it's an interesting choice that they're choosing to make, and now they're going to be protecting their Ornn.
Gosh, I'll make a big claim here, all right? If Mirage put Kindred and Braum bottom, they win that 2v2. I'm being honest, hands down. Braum has a winning matchup against Galio. Kindred does well against low range 80 carries. It honestly sounds like a recipe for success, and along with that, you're able to just set yourself up and also see what you do. What?
How many games do you think Meech has played of Kindred bot?
It don't matter, bro. It's so good, man.
Matter.
It don't matter.
That's
it's
how
not
good
that.
It is.
Ain't that hard. You're not trying to. It's definitely easier to compare to Jungle Kindred, where you have to track your marks. Hey, ball lane, you're like, all right, I'm just gonna put it on Galio, put it on Kai'Sa, put it on whoever we're looking to gank, and you're all good, man. You don't have to worry about marks at all.
Yeah, but you do have to understand what your damage profile looks like, and it's something that does take a little bit of time to build up. But we do see a number of bans coming through as the Sylas and Orianna are taken off the table. I don't feel like those are inherently protecting the Galio super heavily, because I still think that there are plenty of champions you can pick up to deal with that. But
man, I need your thoughts first, Josh, before I go into mine.
I mean, I don't have a lot of thoughts on Aphelios, so I just copy what Alk Battery says. It's playable into Kai'Sa.
If they sent Kindred bottom, they would have won the bot lane, man. I'm
True,
being
now
honest.
we can flex the Phyllis into the jungle.
No. Okay. Well, first off, the only time I saw Felix go in the jungle is Miami University's mid laner Troy played in a normal game. It's not too fun. But going back to Cloud9 here, they're already blind picking their top lane for Speedo on the Jax. Blind too, by the way. Well, actually not blind, into the Ornn, and then picking their account for themselves. So for sure, Cloud9 Amateur are definitely looking to dive in and go into Mirage and their composition.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I really like the Jax into the Ornn, even though it can struggle initially. Oh, the Seraphine for the first time today, at least on stream. All right, all right. So this is really interesting because the Jax playing into the Ornn becomes very one-sided later on in the game in the side lane. So you have to be very focused on making sure that it doesn't get too far ahead or having another side of the map that is so powerful that Jax is forced to team fight.
You know, you're definitely right, but I really want to actually highlight just the double marksman composition that Mirage had made for themselves going into a Cloud9 Amateur team that is looking to go in. I think that kind of spells recipe for doom for the Cloud9 squad. But I think that with Speedo on the top side, that's probably going to be their ideal win condition.
Yeah, I agree. I think Speedo is their main way into this game, other than, of course, a snowballing Graves, which we've seen so many times before, where you can just take control of the entire map. But Speedo on this Jax is going to have a lot of control later on up in the side lane, and it just means that the rest of your team doesn't have to be nearly as aggressive if you're winning the split push. Jax can just take care of everything, and you just need to not lose. And they have the tools to do that with the Galio and a ton of disengage that they have, as well as plenty of mobility in their AD carries.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the wombo combo that could be developed for the Mirage combos. They're actually, honestly, for both sides. Like Kai'Sa ultimate, Galio ultimate coming in, everyone else looking in the dogpile and someone else. It's definitely going to be an explosive game, Josh. I feel like that's going to be the case for both these teams because it's do or die for both of them as we already load right into the game.
Yeah, remember, the winner of this is going to be going on to play in the finals here for the Challengers Uprising New Year Showdown. I'm excited to see what they are able to do. Because the last game slowed down so heavily, and the fact that Mirage have already picked up 14 kills before the game even started, it seems rather one-sided at this point.
You know, so just had to take off the mask. It was getting a little tough to breathe and also to talk. So hopefully you guys hear me a little bit more clear.
Oh wait, look at Ornn top lane.
Yeah, I do see level 1 shenanigans going on. Tempos did hop over with his W to spot anyone else out. So gonna get a little bit of early wards on the top side.
Yeah, but they don't find the Ornn. So they had that set piece play right off the bat. Fortunately, not going to get them a whole lot of anything, but the fact that they're willing to go for it does show like some experience that this team has and actually starting level 1s, which could come into play a little bit more later on in the game. The only thing they really get is this ward that we see on the red buff, which means that they can try and clear it out, but that just means that Play Emotional has to come to the top lane, and they know exactly where he's going to be starting anyway, but it might be worth it to give Ornn level 2 off of the first wave.
Yeah, both these junglers starting on the opposite sides, Josh, so of course they're going to see Emotional, as you said. Wondering what creative ways they can do here. I actually want to put a little more limelight on Emotional and DNA. Two players that we don't really have a lot of research on. Not a lot of background for. Before I get to that, though, Dragoon and Speedo going to fight another 1-on-1, as that has been notoriously been made for this entire set so far. Of course, Speedo's going to win due to the Counter-Strike, but, oh, we're going to have balls. Oh, crap. I don't have the mask on. But, you know, it's fine.
How does this affect your experiment?
You know what?
If you only wear it for part of the game.
You know what? We'll do the experiment from beginning of the broadcast of when I'm wearing it when I go live. How about that? We'll see how that goes.
So
right?
That'll be where we define the number of pieces of apparel you're wearing. Okay.
Okay. So
as long as we're consistent, it's gonna work out.
That's all that matters. Because you know, for all the other broadcasts, I didn't add or remove anything. So this will be another little Y variable that we'll have to kind of think about when it comes to this little experiment. All right.
There you go. This is stats. We'll get somebody to come on in. We'll see if we can hire Dream's astrophysicist. That'll work.
yeah. Or hire my boy Return to do some analyst work for us. And knowing that he's done analyst work for Barrage, I think he'll be having some fun depending on how much Cloud9 apparel you're wearing, or how much of the dedicated team apparel you're wearing while you're on air, and does that have a direct causation of their win or loss? Who knows?
I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to do a little bit more as well, like determining when you put on the clothes relative to where they win, because otherwise you could just determine correlation. You can't get causation just from like, these two things happen to go together. Maybe you only wear Cloud9 clothes when they've won.
That's true.
What
that's
if
definitely
Cloud9
true.
victories force you to wear more Cloud9 apparel?
That's honestly very true, but that's why we have science, right? I do this experiment first, see if it's valid, and then the other person who wants to continue that, build off that, and then that's how we kind of determine which one will work here. We can do an entire gigantic segment on, does apparel work when it comes to winning teams, and who knows? Maybe it can or can't. But for sure, one apparel didn't work from this set. One apparel Cloud9 didn't work. 0 apparels allowed Cloud9 to win. So going to 4, going for an extra mile, we'll have to see what happens,
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities here. It's just like, is it even numbers? Is it odd numbers? Because 0 technically isn't an even number.
Yeah, 0's nothing. So
0, yeah.
You can't wear negative Cloud9 apparel. I mean, unless you're wearing TSM apparel.
Well, okay. What if you started it and then in our countdown you're in the process of taking it off?
No, I think you have to wear all the way through for honor. I think that's probably the most consistent, right? Or sorry, you don't take everything off. You have to keep the ones, at least maybe by you. Maybe that's the case. Just keep it around you, because I still have the mask here. I just don't want to put it on.
Fair.
What?
Do you not see the mask on your face?
Oh,
it's gone.
Sorry, I wasn't. I was looking at the camera. And it was working, but you know what? We can have the mask on again. I don't mind. Do a little
being good. What do you call it? Good.
What's up?
Role models for everyone. Making sure you wear our masks.
Yeah, always make sure you wear your mask, especially during this time. As we hop in here, of course, let's count how many people are actually wearing masks in this game. I think only Jax has something to protect himself and his teammates
Does
from
Brahms' mustache count?
We have to talk to Kangas about that. He's probably going to be the best person to determine if a mustache counts. So, I think we'll have to deviate that to him.
Okay, what about Kindred then?
It's a lamb and a wolf. So,
does it kind of half a mask? Because I feel like Kindred, the lamb is wearing a mask.
Yeah, that's true. Lamb is wearing a mask.
But is that a mask or is that her face?
It's hard. I feel like it is a mask. I feel like it is. We'll have to have a production get a better close-up here. And as long as Emotional just stop moving, we'll get a better look at it. Keeps on going back and forth, kiting this blue buff, so we can't really see.
I think it's a mask. I think it's a mask.
It looks like a mask. It's a mask.
It's a mask. We've decided.
Yeah. We have decided, guys. Lamb is wearing a mask. Wolf is not.
Is that true?
I feel
I'll
like
have to think about that.
We'll have
to look later.
We'll have to have Joe pause the middle of a team fight when Emotional activates the W and see if Wolf is wearing a mask. All right, guys?
True. Because Wolf doesn't really have a body, right? It's just
that's true.
A face. But anyway, so this time the Kindred loses the 50-50, right? They lose the first mark, which isn't the end of the world. You want most of your marks to be coming from killing people. And I mean, ideally, right? You want to be going for these fights, and you have enough gank assist in your lanes. There's enough crowd control that you are able to bring enough damage. So I don't think it's going to hurt them that bad, but it does mean that Play Emotional might want to be a little bit more proactive in some of the plays that they're going for rather than defensive in order to try and hit this late game fantasy.
I like that you mentioned that, because now we have another experiment going on. Wolf looks like he was wearing a mask, so does that cause Emotional to be more aggressive and to get that fantasy of what he wants, or is it going to add diminishing returns when it comes to his play? Who knows, guys? A lot of social experiments going on, apparel experiments for sure, so we'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So we see right now the junglers are on opposite sides of the map as well, and Tempos goes in, gets some good damage onto Meech.
Gets him united, but it's going to be one Summer Spell being blown. Meech has to play a little bit safer now. Surprised he did go for the Fearless, but Gale Force is really good on himself.
Yeah. I mean, it's very helpful too with the number of, or excuse me, realistically, just like the 2 major ways that people can try and jump on top of you. But we saw Captain Shrimps going over wards the Wolf, knows that they aren't there, so that's gonna give a pretty good idea to Cloud9 on where Play Emotional is. It means that he's probably on the top side, either doing his own Raptors, which just got warded out and they spot him, or it could mean that he's doing Cloud9's Wolves. So now they know exactly what's going on, whereas Play Emotional will not, and so they'll have some rather inefficient pathing here in a moment.
And on the bottom side, Trevor and Mish are going to start 2-on-2 on their end, but they're going to get turned around with a teleport from Captain Shrimps here. That's going to be first blood going over. Trevor received who want to turn around with Wixie, but the bottom lane, which is very inconsistent, has now fallen flat for the side of Mirage.
That's a disaster, unfortunately. They end up getting nothing off of that. They just get the summoner spells, and they were so close to actually finding the damage. And as it turns out, giving over a kill to the Galio, giving over a kill to the Braum, while you're the ones going aggressive, is going to really hurt later on. So we said that Athelos is okay into the Kai'Sa, and it doesn't really get better for a while. It definitely gets worse well before it gets better, simply because Kai'Sa is going to have a lot of burst damage to try and take down the Aphelios relatively cleanly.
Yeah, and I also credit, just the communication that came in at that point. Looks like Captain Shrimps was just ready for Trevor and Meech to go aggressive. That usually just comes in with getting tendencies of understanding how your opponent likes to play, and it's a good call. Just kind of read the opponent, as you see Speedo fighting Dragoon in the top side. But for Cloud9, man, they've tackled one of the bigger points of the bottom side of Mirage, and now let's see if Mirage can actually rally.
Yeah, it's important because Seraphine very effective at being, a decent damage dealer, but more importantly, providing a ton of utility, a ton of healing and crowd control throughout these fights. And they need to have a source of consistent damage, right? And Meech falling behind makes it more difficult for him to fulfill that role. It puts more pressure on Play Emotional to actually do that. And he's gotten having outplayed a little bit a couple of times from XU at this point, and even right now has to be very careful about the fact that XU just took away his red buff.
And even then, XU has just been in the opposing jungle the entire time against Emotional. Sounds like from game 1 to game 2 and then going to game 3, he's just getting a better read on where Emotion wants to be at. As on the bottom side, we're going to have another 2-on-2 that occurs. Dumba's going to get stunned up, but not a lot of damage. And it's pretty much going to be the end of the trade. But yeah, XU doing a pretty solid job when it comes to just out-farming and outpacing his opponent.
Yeah, he's done this pretty consistently throughout this series, and generally something he's pretty good at is just making sure that he's able to get more gold than his opponent early on, and it only really gets upset when his opponent is a really good ganker, and so far, hasn't really happened. We haven't really seen him walk into a lane just about anywhere on the map, and it means that a small advantage, actually 2,000 gold, has already been built up by C9 Amateur, and might have an opportunity to start pushing around for some of these objectives relatively soon. They're already taking away most of the opportunities for Kindred to pick up marks naturally by counter jungling, and instead just going to have to actually go, again, look for them in these lanes.
Crazy how 8 minutes in, they've already built up a 2k gold lead for themselves, mainly off of the jungle discrepancy and also the 2 kills that happened on the bottom side. So good stuff on them. I already picked up the Quicksilver side. Silver Bolt. Oh, Shrimps can get jumped on. Gets snared up. Gets rooted too. That means he's going to be falling down onto Emotional. So while I speak, Cloud9 looking pretty good. Shrimps falling down.
Yeah, unlucky timing there. Just walking around the corner right as Kindred happens to also be there. Like, he was just going to ward to make sure that couldn't happen. And turns out that when Lamb and Wolf are right around the corner, there's not a whole lot of time left on your clock. And so the question will be, what else does Mirage get off of this? Because getting the kills is nice, but you want to be able to get more from that. The kills are not the end in themselves. You want to be able to take them in order to take these bigger objectives later on. And so they don't choose to go for the Mountain Dragon. They aren't choosing to go for the Rift Herald. It's just going to be a little bit of gold that they have right now. And Galio is going to be back on the map relatively soon, relatively unscathed.
Yeah, but I feel like if you keep on farming as Cloud9, knowing how well XU is doing so far in the jungle, it just feels like it might just be, and I'm not going to call it early, but it feels like they're going to have a good advantage going into the mid game, and that's where I'm a little bit worried when it comes to this jungle matchup. Emotional's has held his own against XU in this jungle matchup, but this one is looking like the biggest discrepancy from the past two games.
Yeah, I think the first game was a pretty darn
Outside the first,
one-sided affair. Yeah, when XU just like hard gapped play Emotional. And it didn't matter because the lanes were so far behind. But this time, yeah, it's definitely a much more even situation in a lot of ways, except for the fact that XU is very far ahead in CS, and now is going to have an opportunity to try and take this down because he does have the Jax providing priority in the top lane and Galio already in the mid lane, going to be able to push out the wave and provide support. So it's difficult for Mirage to try and contest it, but not impossible.
You see here on the map, XU is taking the Rift Herald for this rest of the squad. Means they're able to get some more gold injected themselves. This is what I'm wondering, man. Outside the bot side, finding action and a little bit of a hiccup from Captain Shrimps. Mirage is not playing the chaotic style that we saw in game 1. And that's, I don't know if it's something to worry about, but it is an observation that I am taking note of.
Yeah, it is important to pay attention to how they are choosing to play. I mean, they played a very collected style in game 2 that almost won them the game. But this time, giving characters like Galio and Rakan the freedom to be the ones to actually dictate the plays is going to be a little bit scarier as things start to come around, because Captain Shrimps now with priority is going to move with XU, and they should be able to pick up this Mountain Dragon here simply because they have priority on both the bottom lane and the mid lane, and Trevor looks like he's going to be heading back to base in order to spend his gold.
I think Trevor needs to do something creative on the map right now, knowing that he's down a kill, and 2v2s aren't looking too hot for them on the bottom side. Maybe he can do something top or help out Emotional in the jungle, and maybe they could try and just overload a side of the map here, because I think the longer this game goes, the more we see the lead being accrued from the top lane and from the jungle and from the AD carry position. But instead, looks like Trevor is going to be going back to the bottom lane to just help out Meech.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like teleport plays coming out from DNA or Dragoon, because I feel like the game is going to be pretty precarious based on like natural composition scaling for the side of Mirage. Like, they want to make sure that they are strong before Jax really starts to take over the side lane, and that is not too far away. That'll happen in about 10 minutes or so, where he becomes nigh unstoppable. And that just means that Mirage have a window of about 10 minutes to try and do something to make sure that that is not the #1 threat on the map.
Very true. Cloud9 do have the Rift Herald on deck, and along with that, just winning more on the neutral objectives so far. Still though, both these teams playing pretty damn slow. Early game action. I'm surprised that Captain Shrimps hasn't looked for action on the top side or on the side lanes as of yet.
Might be going now. Nope. Speedo too far away. They're just going to be backing away, but this just means that XU has an opportunity to walk in, and there's enough sustain on Speedo if he wants to try and tank this wave, not take any damage by throwing out the Counter-Strike and potentially freezing it. And we saw a previous example of this, right, where Dokla froze his opponent off the wave. Chim wasn't able to walk up and get almost anything. Speedo had an opportunity to do that, but instead just clearing the wave right on back and potentially keeping Dragoon pushed up against the turret instead to create priority to move around with his jungler, or give himself an opportunity to teleport, or maybe just back. Like, he's probably sitting on a decent amount of gold at this point. It's been a while since we last saw him spend.
I think I like this play more. Of course, it doesn't create a discrepancy between you and your opponent in the top lane, but it'll also actually do its thing, and right now I think he's the one who has the biggest lead so far. Using the Rift Herald 2 is going to add more gold into his pocket, and along with that, looking to just counter jungle on the bottom side. And take away a blue buff that they've been doing so far in game 2 and going into this game 3. But instead, they're actually going to back off, and I think Mirage definitely has Speedo losing a one-on-one against Dragoon. Managed to land the second call of Forge God, but Dragoon, see if he can take it. Speedo's going to leap strike away, so he doesn't die, but he is walking away with pretty low health.
Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate that Dragoon mistimed his charge, wasn't able to actually get the first knock up, and therefore let Speedo get away, because there was no flash on the Jax. There was definitely an opportunity that they could have picked him up, but instead he's going to be able to walk back into lane with a Blade of the Ruin King, and suddenly the sustain that this character brings and the percent health damage that he's able to do is going to be very impactful. And oh, this is interesting. Emotional just back. XU right at the nick of time is going to be there to look for a dive.
Yeah, the Meech and Trevor do have all 4 summoners here, but that's the teleport coming in. They're looking to tackle down Meech, and they have already done so. Both teleports come in, but it's not going to matter. Actually, 2 teleports from Mirage are coming through. Ultimate comes flying wide, but it's not going to land. No one gets hit from the performance, and because of that, Cloud9 just ran away with the kill.
Yeah, that short shark coming through just means that DNA ends up wasting a lot of time down here on the bottom lane, and the Seraphine, going to be very powerful later on, no doubt, but it is going to be very important that that play went in favor of Cloud9. They find quite a bit, and more importantly than what they get on the bottom lane, Speedo getting a lot of time to himself up here on the top side of the map is able to continue to build this CS lead, and Dragoon just now getting back isn't going to have an opportunity to get almost any of this. It's almost all going to be going over to play Emotional Kindred.
Definitely going to hurt him in the 1-on-1, but I think it's going to be good overall because, you know, 1 of your damage heroes is going to be one picking a lot of gold for himself. Definitely going to need it. He actually opted for the Kraken Slayer too when it comes to it. But Speedo, looking pretty good. It's interesting though because on the top left, the ocean timer is getting really wonky, Josh. I don't even see that. Something's going on. 29, 28.
It's rounding.
Don't really know where it is. It's going by like the decimal. That's what it is.
That's pretty funny. It's all good. We've seen worse.
We fixed it. Oh, it's back to 5. 16. There you go. North American production is the best.
The best. All right. So, as the game kind of settles into this slower period while we wait for Jax to scale, I think it's going to be very important to see like how Mirage are going to be looking to try and make plays to engage on the other 4 members. Oh, they do get it.
Oh my god. All right. Well, DNA is going to get blown up from the collateral damage. Also means that they have a window of opportunity to take this Ocean Drake for themselves. It's going to push him over to 2. Tempest is going to go say hi to Emotional, but Mirage are unable to contest.
Yeah, I was trying to say that the game was going to slow down, but then immediately XU and Shrimps look for a kill, and they pick up the dragon. So they also enter the what next? They get the kill, then they also pick up something else, and now they're going to chain that into the mid lane turret probably as the Demolish proc comes through for Tempo. So they're very happy with the situation, and it really starts to beg the questions, how are Mirage going to actually force these fights on the rest of the map, because Dragoon isn't going to have a good time contesting Speedo off in the side lane. And I think it's really going to come down to the fact that Dragoon has to kind of run around with the team, sacrifice a ton of personal economy in order to be relevant on a lot of these fights. And now they spot out multiple members, so Wixie and Tempos are going to be very happy to just clear this out, push it into the enemy turret, and hopefully have an opportunity to find something off of it, because they are now also power spiking with the Kraken Slayer that is now Wixie. There they go.
Okay. All right, they're jumping on a Meech, already hopping on the backside. Meech is going to go and try and retreat through the river. Has the Severum to try and heal up, but then already the hero's entrance coming in for Captain Shrimps, and also means that they're going to be looking to push onto Trevor. Double circles, and the Venn diagram comes through onto him, so he's going to be a slain person, but Cloud9 turning up the heat, and along with that, Mirage Esports feels like they're just losing so much steam.
Yeah, it feels like they haven't really been able to make many proactive plays. The only thing that they've really found was when Captain Shrimps happened to walk into play Emotional's Kindred. So we'll get to see this once again, and this is the danger that Rakan provides to characters like Aphelios who don't have the Gale Force. You just jump at him, and there's not a whole lot he can do about it. Takes a ton of damage, and by the time everybody else joins into the fight is already basically over, and they even have the time to give over the last kill to Speedo. They're trying to accelerate this Jack so that he's more relevant later on in the game in a faster situation, and looking pretty darn good across the map. 3,000 gold in the lead and no real sign of stopping.
That's why I'm wondering what's going on in Mirage's head. Like, in Game 1, they were so explosive. Game 2, nail biter that could have gone their way. Game 3, 17 minutes in, they've only gotten 1 kill, off of Captain Shrimp's just face checking in a pretty unlucky spot. Meech and Trevor haven't been playing that high tempo bottom side that we're used to seeing, and it begs the question, you know, have they lost steam? Are they able to just kind of find a way and maybe just manufacture a way back in the game?
I mean, I think that's part of it, right? It's been a long day. This is their 6th game back-to-back that they've had to play. But I think the other thing to just note is that there's just variance, right? Like, Meech and Trevor have some really good games, and then they have games like this one where they just lose a 2v2 and suddenly their bottom lane situation quickly becomes untenable. And it's kind of hard to know which one you're going to end up getting until you actually see it. It just happens to be that they happen to be on the low end of the variance this time.
But that's where if you're trying to be the best, you have to make sure that that variance is high while also staying consistent, right, Josh?
For sure. I mean, that's the ideal, but now they should be able to get most of, if not this entire turret. Yeah, the Riftchild does take it down, and they continue to build on their gold lead, continue to build a map lead, and it becomes very difficult for Mirage to move around. And so, do we know who their opponents is? Is it North, or is it not Amateur, or excuse me, not Academy that they're playing?
You know, I'm actually not too sure as of yet. Let's wait and see. But finally, I think we might see a breath of life coming in from Mirage as they do manage to find Tempos, Wixie, and Exu here. Call of Fortune gets used, but unfortunately, a good little stop from Tempos to deny the second charge. Teleport's coming in on the backside too, where Captain Shrimps is right there, sitting in the middle too. Doesn't get a good one.
Oh,
that's a 4-man counter-strike going in. Lamb's Spike gets used. That's a gigantic knockback on all 5. Another knockback comes in on all 4, but everyone is flicking health bars here. Everyone's dying left and right, back and forth. Cloud9 are the ones who actually lose more members at the end of it, with them crawling away. Tempos runs away, Exu runs away too, but for Mirage, they're looking to turn on the Baron right now.
The absolutely insane healing that Seraphine provides, a crazy amount of effective HP, but it's not over, right? They still have an opportunity to try and steal this. Exu going to be in a very strong position to try and do so, and they aren't trying to keep him out of the pit just quite yet. Down to 3,000, see if he can find it.
Serene waiting, they're being patient. Exu, what's for the shot? He's going in!
Oh, too early.
Does he get it?
Yeah.
No, he falls down. Unfortunately, Baron's going to be going over to Mirage Esports, and this is where they're coming back. I said that it felt like they were just losing so much steam, but finally, we get the comeback in this game.
Yeah, pay attention to what the mid lane ends up doing in this fight. See how much effective health Seraphine is able to give everyone after the Lambster Spike comes through. Because it looks pretty solid, right? You get Galio into the middle, but unfortunately he doesn't get a big taunt. He in fact only gets Trevor. His stun lands on 4 people, but the Lambster Spike comes through in order to keep them all alive. And then as everybody piles in, because you can't kill any of these members, the counter crowd control immediately turns around, and when the Lambster Spike disappears and everybody gets a burst of health, everybody on the side is going to have a huge burst immediately afterwards, and DNA able to get so much damage to that entire thing with all of the AoE he provides.
Great surround sound with the double passive. Make sure that his team is looking in, and I feel like this game is just coin flips in favor for Mirage here. They've already looking to go for the ultimate here. This is where the Cloud9 wants to try and attempt to return. They've already deleted Meech. He's already gone off the map. Emotional still alive. Dragoon's going to see if he can be a big body against the 4. He's already pretty low, which he's looking to advance forward. Speeder's on the flank. Dragoon falls down. Now Cloud9's coming in for the counterattack. DNA has to flash away, but he does land a good E to make sure he stops too. Capture doesn't manage to land the taunt. Oh my god, Josh, you're making me laugh with all your interjections, but still, at the end, it's back to a nervous game for both these sides as Cloud9 finds a counterattack.
Yeah, that was so funny, like how close they all were to catching Seraphine. It feels like a Tom and Jerry movie, right? He's like just right on the edge. But yeah, this is why Aphelios is not so much fun to play these days, is because you get on top of him and he's dead. And then you don't have a real AD carry anymore. You don't have the Lamb's fight to keep people alive, and you're able to chase people down at this point. And I think they get Dragoon and maybe one more, and look how many like points of death DNA dodges.
Yeah.
There's one.
Yep.
We're about to see the second one as they flash forward. Barely missed the taunt. We see Tempo's going for an opportunity. Barely misses that as well. And so you just see his life flash before your eyes like 3 times in quick succession.
My god, he was that close to death, guys. But fortunately, he does manage to live. Back to an even game now after that entire early game that was going over to Cloud9 and a gigantic turn from Mirage around the Baron point. So I like what Mirage was going for now after that a little bit of a snoozer of the early game where they just didn't really put up a lot of action.
Yeah, for sure. I think now that they have an opportunity, they've scaled a little bit with their composition. It is starting to become the question of who gets to play the style that their composition is built for. Is Speedo going to be sitting off in the side lane and continuing to take down these structures, or is he going to come to these team fights? And so far, he's been coming to the team fights where Jax isn't bad at team fighting, but he's not warned here for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that statement so much. I think that Cloud9 have to stick to their win condition of, letting Speedo do his thing. Make sure he's a split push threat. Make sure he's, fighting a one-on-one. I mean, probably win a one-on-one against DNA too. So just let him do his. If you keep on letting him do that, pretty sure Cloud9 should be able to find a victory.
Yeah, and they just got to get him enough vision control so that he can feel safe in actually pushing up into the turret. Because right now, they just finally got a pink ward down towards the blue buff. So they have one primary choke that you need in order to make sure that he feels safe. But the teleport is available, and as the rest of the team are creating a lot of pressure, they're also creating opportunities for Mirage to try and look for these teamfight engages. But they're going to be backing away, and it doesn't look like Cloud9 Amateur are in a spot where they are ready to just take down any of these structures because they're backing away as well.
Yeah, I think that Cloud9 just doesn't want to push their advantage so far and not lose all the map here. Of course, they can strip camps away from Emotional, but making sure that they, Mirage aren't able to just move back and forth while they're in the base. Probably just might be an easier time so that it allows Speedo to do his thing and just farm everything else out.
Yeah, for sure. He's up 70 CS. Right, he's in a pretty good spot in terms of his gold income. He's got the Trinity Force and the Blade of the Rune King.
He can get more.
More.
That's what he wants. More CS. That's what he wants, I feel like.
Yeah, it's what we all really want.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, more gold.
More gold.
9,000.
He's not even that I guess we haven't really paid attention to the fact that XU and Wixie are super rich, right? You see that they are already over the 10,000 mark. There's a collector in Kai'Sa's inventory as well as in XU, so they have a lot of damage and they can burst out some of these squishy members very, very quickly, provided, of course, they aren't standing in Lamb's Respite.
Right now, the goal for both these teams is going to be this Cloud Drake. Will mean soul point for Cloud9, and it's going to be a good denial for Mirage if they manage to take it. But so far, Mirage are on the board first and getting a good amount of control in the bottom quadrant.
Okay, he realized he was on the ward. It took him a bit, but we eventually get there. Yeah, but this is the big thing, right? Dragoon is not with the team. He's choosing to match the split push, which is generally pretty good for the side of Cloud9, and we'll see if Speedo actually commits to hitting the turret, or if the rest of his team is going to get engaged upon, because Dragoon is kind of halfway between, and he's so far back that he can't actually use the ultimate at the range he is. And so it looks like he's finally deciding he wants to go for the team fight. He doesn't want to be matching the scales.
Yeah, but there was a ward sitting in the middle of the lane towards Mirage's side, and that's where they didn't want to pull the trigger. Now we see the Cloud Drake getting start up, and Cloud9 are very far away. Won't be able to get the snipe, unfortunately, from Wixie, so Emotion will be able to pick that up and deny the second one. But Speedo's still doing a good amount of damage on the top lane.
Yeah, did they stop Dragoon? No, they aren't able to get in time, but they are going to be able to trade it for an inner turret, right? Which is going to allow them an opportunity to continue pushing aggressively across the map pretty much everywhere they go. And now, we just flip the script. It goes upside down. The Baron is alive once again. Speedo goes down to the bottom lane, and the rest of his team starts to dance around the Baron. They don't necessarily need to look for a fight. They just need to be providing enough pressure so that Speedo can do the same.
Yeah, that's just definitely needs to sit in the mid lane for sure and let Speedo do his thing. But for Mirage, man, they're just, I don't know, I feel like they just need to pull the trigger sometime. Like, your composition, of course, can't really advance forward, but then the longer you sit here, the worse it's going to be, because Jax is doing the split push thing. Cloud9's going to start this Baron, and it's falling pretty fast with Kai'Sa and Graves.
Yeah, Speedo isn't in a spot where he is providing pressure just quite yet, so it looks like they're just confident that their opponents aren't going to check, and by the time that they do, it might be too late. Tentacles and Shrimps are already creating so much space that, yeah, they just pick up the Baron for free.
big steal on the neutral objective means that Speedo's able to just do his own thing too. This is what I was afraid of, Josh. Mirage just being pulled back and forth, Dragoon not being able to farm or match Speedo, and that's where it might just be enough to make sure C9 plays to their win condition and let Speedo do his thing.
Yeah, I think this kind of also harkens back as we look at the rest of the game state to the winning 2v2 that Wixie and Tempos were able to find. If they weren't able to do those, if they weren't able to get these first couple of dragons, this game could look very different, right? If the side of Mirage were one dragon away from the soul, oh boy.
Trevor is going to fall down from the rest of Cloud9. Call of Forge gets used. XU is still alive. As the Hero's Entrance comes through, a good Tempos ultimate from the
over the wall.
Quickness is coming through. Quicksy's on the outside. But look at Speedo!
Oh.
3-man stun, but a good Lamb's Respite is going to stop anyone else out. Meech has already gone down, but look at everything else. Everyone is falling down to the wayside. Cloud9 is winning this fight. Double kill goes out big for XU, and Speedo looking to take his last one in the kill. That's about to be 5 members falling down. Cloud9 are running down the mid lane.
This might be the end of the game, Walk. This might be determining that these guys are going to be going to the finals at this point. Everybody is dead except for Trevor for at least 20 seconds. And this might be the big opportunity. They definitely get at least one inhibitor. If they can kill Trevor off the back of this, they can end the game.
Thunder falls down. Trevor's coming back here. He's by himself. But they're hitting the Nexus turrets.
10 seconds.
There's still
5
one
seconds.
goes down. Trevor's going to be the last man between everyone else. They're still hitting the turret, but Trevor is not able to stop everyone else out. They're still whacking out the Nexus. Meech is now back alive, but at what cost? Cloud damage gets used, but that's going to be the end, Josh. Cloud9 Amateur advances to the grand finals.